Okay, we're now at item number 7, which is the Merritt Avenue Bridge Award of Bid. Tony, do you want to give some background on that?
I did that carefully. So the Merritt Avenue Bridge, we started this process back in 2007, I believe it was, when we applied for a grant to replace the bridge. The bridge was identified as a scour critical bridge, which Dave can get into much greater detail than I can, but safe to say that the condition warranted and was able to get us a grant. It's a federal grant. It's 80/20, so that's a pass-through through the state, the federal bridge program. And so we went through a process to identify an engineering consultant, and this was all directed by the DOT and a consultant of the DOT, which is Close, Jensen, and Miller. And we selected Cardinal Engineering for that, and they've helped us. They were the design consultant. And so we've gone through this process now. It's now been quite a few years, and we're at the point where we've gone out to bid for the replacement of the bridge. And so we received about 10 bids, and this is yet another great example of why we go out to bid. If you'll see the range of prices here that we received for the bid, from a high of a little over $2 million to a low of $1.3 million, you'll see that it was a worthwhile exercise for us. So I thought Dave would be able to explain the bid process in a little more detail and give some highlights, and they did a recommendation to us for an award. So
I know the residents are very interested in keeping this moving. They have been all along, and we're very happy to say that our estimate was 1.77 million and the low bid was 1.3. So you're saving $500,000 essentially, and you're only paying 20% of that. So it's a great deal. You're going to get a new bridge. One of the interesting things about this is we analyze the amount of time it should take the contractor. We give him those many calendar days. If he goes beyond that, there are liquidated damages. We're giving him 8 months for this project. Now, because of the environmental concerns, there's fish that migrate up the river, so we cannot do any pile driving of sheet piles or the piles. The bridge is actually founded on 70-foot long piles that make the foundation below the river, so that as the water comes through, and if some soil washes away, the bridge still remains, and it is no longer scour critical. We've designed it to withstand a 500-year storm, which is federal highway guidelines. So if we cannot allow the contractor in April or May to do any work which would cause vibrations and adversely impact the fish. So we would like to get them going this fall for about a month, which is before the winter shutdown. And then we can encourage them to work through the winter shutdown for a portion of time to get enough of the cofferdam in, so that when they come back in April, that they can work and they're not doing vibration causing work that would be prohibited by the contract. So that way they would work a couple of months if we can convince them to work through the winter. We cannot mandate them to work through the winter, but we can certainly encourage them to work through the winter depending on their schedule. And that would be in the best interest of the town, because then when they come back in April, they should be able to finish it that construction season, with the minor things that they may have to come back in the following spring to do a little seeding and that type of vegetative planting.
because the bridge will be closed permanently, the residents will have to use the Bradley Road Bridge. That's why we were trying to avoid 2 winter shutdowns, correct?
Right. But
Through the back, right.
So they go down Bradley, they go right, and goes through that,
Past
Past
the ball field.
okay, all of the little drive area.
Through the gate.
Through the gate, exactly.
The gate will be
The
open.
gate will be open, right?
And then there'll be concrete barrier curbs on each side of the bridge because there will be no bridge.
So when they start this fall,
The bridge would be closed this fall. It would start,
That is correct.
as soon as they start, we're basically closing down the.
Pretty much, they could technically, if they had to, do maybe a month's worth of work without closing the bridge, but that's not the way it was bid. They're allowed to close the bridge. Once they close the bridge, they can really get in there and work.
So if they close the bridge, let's just say they close it after a few weeks of work, so they close it this fall. When, based on the schedule and with the April, May, as long as there's no vibration, but there may be, when do you expect the bridge would be open again?
Well, winter shutdown, if they elect to work, does not count against their calendar days. So
Right, so I'm
we're
asking-
assuming that they will get 1 month in, and then April, 7 months, probably the end of October, beginning of November, it should be open. Yeah, well, yeah.
so for a month's worth of work, we're shutting it down for the whole winter, right?
Well, we still have to talk with the contractor, and we are going to encourage him to work another month or two so that he can get, we have to do this in certain stages. There's a sanitary sewer under the bridge, and that has to be relocated to south of the bridge. We can't do it all in one shot. We have to work on the west side and build half of it, and then we go over to the east side and build the other half and connect that. And there's storm drainage coming out under the bridge from both sides. That has to be moved out. Once those are moved, then they can put a curtain down so that there's no debris dropping in the river, remove the bridge superstructure, and then they can start driving the sheet piling, which is a coffer dam, around the area to be constructed. The reason they drive these sheet piling is they actually get if you look at it, it almost looks like a basement foundation. They pump it dry and they work in the dry. And they're below the river level by about 8 or 10 feet. And then they can go in there and do all that work. There are utilities overhead that have to be relocated. There's a water main that has to be brought down from Bradley so that the water main that goes under the river right now can be disconnected. And that, right now, the people on Bradley Street have a dead end, which is coming from Litchfield Turnpike. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed them from the industrial area and shut it off across the bridge during construction, and then put a new main on the bridge so they will have a loop, and it will help the people in the Bradley, the Merritt Avenue area and up in Bradley to get a loop. Because really your water mains are based on fire supply. We don't drink much water, we don't take much water, but if you have a fire, you draw a lot of water. So that's when you want your loop. And if you have a loop and there is a fire, they can draw from both directions, and it's much safer. It's better for everyone involved. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. If there's no more questions, we would recommend that you select this contractor. He has done quite a bit of state bridge work. He is pre-qualified as a bridge contractor, and we've checked his references, and I see no reason why you would want to go with someone more expensive.
I just have a quick question. If we don't, to go to your point, if you didn't start it
When do we finish?
in October and you followed a more traditional timing path,
then you
when
would-
would it start and when would it finish?
You would be able to start in June,
Not until next June,
next June,
and be done?
and be done probably, then there would be a winter shutdown at the end of November. They
Gotcha.
would start April and May, and probably finish up middle of June.
But between now and next June, the bridge would still be open and used, or you have to?
If they do not start till June, they will not close the bridge till June.
As I understand it, the complication here is the fish.
Yes.
Right, so one way or another, we're gonna lose a couple of
But
months.
I
And-
think, are you saying that by starting it this fall, you're hoping that there's no vibrational impact in April, May, so it can be worked through? Or are
Right,
you saying
that is correct. If we can get the coffer dams in, which are around each of the abutments, there's a lot of work to do in the abutments, excavation, things like that they could have about 2 months worth of work to do before they, they still have to drive the pile snap, but those could be driven in the winter if the contractor elects to, and he could do the excavation and drive the piles and then just let the hole fill up with water again. He doesn't have
If
to.
he does that, we turn when next year? When's the term? If he does that.
If he does that, then you would probably be done end of October.
And if he doesn't do that,
Then you're gonna be the following May or June.
so we lose two. So
You're gonna lose a.
I can't see shutting this down for this year if he's not gonna do that work. That's the only, I mean, why would we shut it down I agree with you if he's gonna, but when you say he can elect to do that work, why would we shut it down if he elects not to do that work?
Well, the town has to give him the notice to proceed. And we would have a pre-construction meeting with all the utility companies and the contractor and see what his intent is. And if it is something where we feel that he could start, get a month in, and then he would work for a couple of months in the winter with calendar days that don't get charged against him, then the town would give them the notice to proceed in a timely manner for this year. If not, then we would ask the utility companies to do their work and then have him start probably June 1st.
I have one last question. I'm assuming it's been talked about. Traffic-wise, obviously, when the bridge is shut down, that would be a good thing for the traffic in the Lucy Street area pulling in and out because that causes an extra jam. But what will the impact be if everyone has to go out? There's quite a few residents in there, and if now everyone has to come out of Bradley Road because that's the only exit out of that area to get across. Has that been looked at as far as the impact, and if there would be any changes over on that four-way intersection in Bradley?
Yeah, we'll coordinate through that through the DOT district office, District 3, during construction, but we don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem. We've already looked at that.
I have a comment.
Yes.
This project has been going for a long time. It is desperately needed. I know the residents are desperate to get this done. And that being said, if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion. Can I do that? And then we can have further discussion, but I really think I'd like to make this motion to recommend that the town of Woodbridge award the contract to the above referenced contract, Black and Warner Construction Company Incorporated. Get that motion out there, because I think it's important. With all of these delays, and I've
Just
been on the...
technically, I think we wanted to approve the award of the contract. Not,
Award the contract to?
yeah,
Yeah.
to Black and Mortar.
Okay, right, okay. But
Second.
whatever is appropriate to do the...
That's all we're
correct-
doing. We can't say when they should start or not
Right.
start. That has to be
Right.
coordinated in the field.
But I just, having been on the board for not that long, but a few years, and listening to these poor people coming for a while there every month, please help us, please help us. Gotta go forward.
So if we coordinated the field,
Excuse me, I need a second on that.
Joe Oops. Joe second.
Thank you.
if we coordinate it in the field, if you will, we're relying on you guys. I mean, my thought would be, again, if we can't,
There's several parties involved. There will be the contractor and the town, us as the engineer, and then the Department of Transportation through their district offices.
so when and how do we decide whether we're shutting it down for potentially two winters instead of one?
No, it won't be 2 winters.
Well, then I'm misunderstanding, because I thought you said that if you start in October, but don't do certain of the work,
So
then we go all the way through next winter as well, but we're still shut down this winter. So I do think we are shut down 2 winters if it doesn't all go right.
my understanding is there are 2 options. We talked with the contractor, and if he feels that with his schedule, he can get a month's work in and will work for a couple of months in the winter so that he can do non-vibratory work in April and May. We do have one winter shutdown, and his calendar days would expire the end of October.
Agreed, and I'm all for that, and I understand that, but
The second
but
option,
the second option is he doesn't do that other work.
no. The second option is we don't feel that he can do enough work that he can work through April and May with non-vibration, and we will give him a notice to proceed as of June 1st.
Okay, so okay, that's fine,
That's one together.
that's fine.
Okay, and
So,
if it's-
so we're not shutting it down this year unless he does all the work.
Correct.
I'm fine.
And that we have to determine based on his schedule, and, we put out a schedule to get the calendar days of what we feel, based on our experience, is a reasonable amount of time for the contractor. You want to give him enough time for weather problems, utility problems, those type of things. But you don't want to give him so much time that he just puts a skeleton crew on for a couple of months and runs through the whole contract. Yeah, yeah.
So motion's made and seconded?
Could I just make one comment?
One more comment?
My frustration with this project for some time now has been that it can't or won't be incorporated into a larger, more comprehensive redesign of the entire interchange in that whole area. The residents made it quite clear that they had no interest in that, and so I want to underscore what Beth said about moving forward then with this much more limited project to replace that bridge.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now at item 8 on the agenda, Woodbridge Listens, Country Club of Woodbridge Ad Hoc Committee. As you all know, I have been talking about finding the highest and best use for the property known as the Country Club of Woodbridge for the last few months. It's a top priority for me, and I think I can safely say it is a top priority for this entire board. We have all been concerned about the financial situation at the club, and I think we share a determination to reverse the situation expeditiously, thoughtfully, and with robust public discussion. And I stress that last public discussion because one of the issues that has come up repeatedly about proposals or a particular proposal in the past for the country club is that there was not enough public discussion, public input, and public information. And for that reason, I think it's very important that we go ahead quickly. I had said I would do it by the end of September, and I'm pleased that tonight I can say we have an ad hoc committee. We have a 5-member committee. People have accepted it. And although it's a formality, I would like to ask the board to approve the charge to the committee. I had this as part of the first Selectmen's report, but I know Joe and Tony want to put something else out on the table, so I moved it up in the agenda so that we could have a discussion of this charge as well as a different one that they'd like to propose. So I will read the charge into the record and ask for a motion to approve this charge. The purpose would be to provide an opportunity for all Woodbridge residents to express their views, concerns, and recommendations with respect to the property known as the Country Club of Woodbridge. The composition is 5 town residents to be appointed by the first selectman, and the charge is to hold 2 or more public hearings duly noticed at which town residents and others may comment upon the current and future uses of the property and to report to the Board of Selectmen no later than November 7th, 2013 on the public hearings. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about this charge to the ad hoc committee or the ad hoc committee?
Yeah, just want to pass out a letter actually that Tony and I had put together and sent to Ellen a week or so ago, which represents our thoughts on an alternative to the ad hoc committee. Of course, when we put this together, we had no idea what the charge or composition of that committee was to be. So this is sort of in the abstract in that regard. And I'd like to make this part of the minutes as well. I won't read it all, but we'll just make it part of the minutes. So it represents what we thought would be a more comprehensive plan to move us forward with. I agree, what we all, I think, know and realize is a pretty serious situation over at the CCW, not only long-term but short-term as well. So what we thought, and I can just, in the minutes, our conclusions were kind of highlighted in the agenda, I'm sorry, that you put out.
Right, your proposal is
You
in the packet.
excerpted parts of
The
our
actual proposal.
Right.
I think it was the entire proposal. I thought it was.
Not what I got.
That was the intention anyway.
What I received was only 1 through 5 of our proposal in terms of following a certain process, but the entire letter was not
Right,
put
yeah.
out. So So the whole letter can become part of the record. But so our vision is really, and listen, I applaud going forward in any sense, because doing nothing certainly is not an option. So we have to do something. Recognizing, I think, at this point, that the seriousness of the situation, it was our hope anyway that we'd get involved with a process that kind of moves this forward more quickly and more productively, in that it's part of a comprehensive plan. If we go with this ad hoc committee that I just saw actually for the first time the other day, and again, certainly better than nothing. But really the way I read that is we're going to have a series of meetings, 2 or more, between now and November 7th. And these 5 folks are going to listen to the input from the town and then bring that input to us. If you read what we put forth here, the underlying premise of it really is that the BOS really, in our opinion, should stay in charge of this and should be in charge of this. I don't know that I see, and now seeing the ad hoc committee proposal in charge, I'm wondering why we would need 5 folks to have these meetings. If we want to have meetings, and you'll see number 4 in our proposal, certainly in dealing with this consultant, we propose that the consultant would have meetings for the town people to come in and express their opinions, so it's transparent and we get that valuable input. So I think we've provided for the same thing in our proposal. But getting back to what's on the table, if we want to have these series of meetings, why wouldn't we just have folks come to our meeting? I'm just struggling with why we would have 5 folks hold these meetings and then come back and tell us what was said in those meetings. We can hear, we can listen. We should be in charge of this, because this is very serious and we got to make some decisions. So I think actually that we can use both our proposal and the proposal for public hearings together in a broad process that really puts us farther down the road. But specifically, if we're going to have meetings and just meetings, I would advocate that we just have those meetings as a portion of these meetings or separate meetings of the Board of Selectmen. I see no reason for 5 folks to hear people and then tell us what they heard. So those are my comments.
In the charge, so yeah, I guess my question is, I don't see anything in the charge other than what Joe just stated, as far as they're going to come back and report to us. They're not going to try to come up with an opinion or give us some, they're basically going to hear what people have to say and report that back without offering some type of advice or opinion.
Generally, I mean, I think it's hard to say exactly what will come out of the public hearings, but that is the idea, to have 2 longer public hearings where a group of 5 people, some who have been connected with the country club in the past, some who have not, will hear from the public. And I think it's very important that we engage people and give them the opportunity.
Yeah, I think we do too. As a matter of fact, if you look at number 4, it was part of what we'd like to hear. So what I'm wondering is, can we combine this more as a whole? Maybe we move number 4 up to number 1 and we have these. I think it's very important to have the hearings and that people hear it. But if we are even going to consider a consultant or bidders to consult on land use, it would be great if they could come to these meetings and hear them as well. Because we did supply a place for that. We do think it's very important that even if we go through a consultant or however we end up coming up with a decision, that we hear from town residents, what's the consensus, what's out there, and there's always some great idea that comes out of it that maybe we can look at. So we are with you, absolutely, I am with you when it comes to holding the meetings, hearing from residents. I do have some concern that Joe has about, without anything additional to this charge of this ad hoc committee, it just seems like they're listening instead of us, and then they're going to get back to us. And I do understand maybe we could just either listen. Now, they could still come and sit, and we could all sit and listen, but to be honest with you, if there's going to be such meetings, I know I'm going to want to be there, and probably most of the people at this table are going to want to be there. So I don't know what their purpose, if they're not given any other objective or charge, other than they're acting as almost a tape recorder for us, and the truth is, most of us are going to be there. So I'm wondering if you can combine such a thing where, okay, fine, they do this as part of a larger plan where we're hearing them. I think what we're saying is we're looking to get a sense of direction a little quicker. That can be had, and if we were out looking for bids for a consultant or to talk to possible consultants on this, that process takes some time anyway, so we can do something like this and do something that we're proposing. We're just trying to cut time. I'm not saying it's a.
What do we do after we hear, after we have?
I have
And
to,
then I'll.
from history a little bit. I was not on the committee, but I was, at the time, was a member of the Firehouse Building Committee, and we came to the Board of Selectmen, and we did the same process that Ellen is proposing. I'm not in disagreement at all. I think you guys are right on the money in terms of the RFP, et cetera, but I would suggest one thing, because we did it this way and it worked. Maybe it won't work for this, but it's just a thought to pass this out there. We had, I think, I don't know if it was Ed or Ellen, or Amy, I can't remember who was the first selectman at the time, suggested that we put together the same kind of ad hoc committee for the old firehouse. And the most wonderful thing about that was the residents came, gave their opinions, and that committee didn't filter anything, but brought all of the suggestions and sort of prioritized them as to how many people said what and things like that. And it helped the Board of Selectmen at the time develop the RFP. So my thought is we can continue with dialogue, et cetera, but to develop the RFP, we first go to the residents and say, what are you thinking? You know, just, it's only going to be a month and a half, something like that. And it worked very well because people, before even the RFP went out, we heard from folks right away, and I think people are kind of desperate to give us their opinions, and this is a great way to start, and it'll be a quick, and we don't have to stop the dialogue, as I said. We can continue to hear from people as part of the RFP, using your suggestions, you know.
Yeah, I think
It's just my thought. Let's get it started.
And as
Sure.
a point of information, I think that your proposal may be something that we get to. I think it's premature to know that we want that kind of consultant right now. And I think it's particularly premature because we're working on hiring a consultant for the plan of conservation and development. And that will include a discussion of the country club property, and it will include public outreach. So I am hopeful that the timing will work so that these public hearings will coincide and overlap with the work of the consultant on the plan of conservation and development. It will be the kind of hearings where we hone in on actual proposals and hear from people. You know, it's a big and difficult issue, and I think we all feel we want to move as expeditiously as we can, but we want to move wisely. And the way I look at it and what's happening in town, I believe it's premature, but not a bad idea, what you had
So
put
what
out.
do you want to do with this, with these 5 people who come back and instead of having a tape recorder, they tell you what happened?
Can I answer?
Well, why would we hire a consultant to be that tape recorder?
No.
You wouldn't?
They
You
would
just said the consultant would likely convene comparable meetings.
as a part of
As
what
a part
their
of the
charge
whole
would be-
process,
would
please
be to hear.
read it. And then,
Yeah, as a part of
Well,
what-
I only just got it. So.
No, I understand, but it's a process, and we're not new to consultants, because we've heard from a few of them today, and a bunch of committees that came before us all talked about consultants. I don't know how in the world we deal with this issue of what we have over there without a consultant. I'm willing to listen, but I don't know how we do it, just like we do every other major project that we have here in town. So what we really said was, and what we've proposed, is a process that includes an RFP for a consultant, and as part of the consultant working with the Board of Selectmen, we have public hearings to get the input from the town. Now, I'm not against having the input from the town in another fashion like this, but if our first step to dealing with this project is just that, I think it's anemic and it doesn't go far enough.
Thank you.
If it's in conjunction with something further, then I'm all for it, because I'm all for having the public come and tell us what they might think. And then the consultant can use that information and his professional expertise.
Right.
And the other problem I have is another committee. We already have a CCWC. How many committee, the BOS has to take charge of this, I feel. and we have to stay
I
involved.
wasn't even suggesting that we not, I don't wanna lose charge for a minute. We own this.
Yeah.
This is ours, as do all the.
So why
taxpayers.
can't we listen to the public ourselves? I mean, why do we need a committee to listen to?
Well, I'm just one person on this board, but it seems to me there's two things going on. We're talking about timing, but what I think we're really talking about here is sequencing. What needs to happen first? And what needs to happen first, it seems to me, having lived through a number of iterations of what's been going on with the country club, is for people to have an opportunity to speak. Whether we have the opportunity to listen or not is up to us as individual selectmen if we want to go to these meetings. But I think if you have it as a Board of Selectmen meeting, it takes on a level of formality and gravity that in some ways inhibits some speakers and in other ways energizes other kinds of speakers. And I would like to see this as much more of a dialogue where there's a little bit of back and forth and a little bit more of a calm environment. I don't want to see these discussions get politicized, and I think frankly, if it's in front of the Board of Selectmen, it will get politicized. So that's number one. Number two, I agree with what Ellen and Beth just said. I think you got me all mixed up with Ed and Amy. About it may be that at some point we do want to talk about a consultancy, but because we're looking at the conservation development thing, we may be able to sort of double deck that and make that as part of a much bigger plan. And I think that in some ways that's the more fiscally responsible
Could you
thing to
explain
do.
that to me? I don't quite get that.
The plan of conservation and development is going to be revised this year.
It has to
It
be
will-
revised this year.
It has to be
by
revised,
statute.
and it will include consideration, certainly consideration of the country club and other properties. And we are talking to consultants now for that plan of conservation and development, and we have talked about expediting attention to the country club property. And one of the very important things that these consultants do is hold charrettes or other kinds of pretty intense public meetings, and they will elicit more specific kinds of ideas, and I think these two things can work very well together.
So there's a suggestion that coming out of the conservation plan and that consultant, we're gonna somehow get a solution for the CCW.
It's possible.
I'm
It's-
not.
No, Joe,
I'm
it's
just-
possible.
Okay.
I do think that there is no absolute one right way to go here or one perfect time to do things.
Right.
We've talked about the ad hoc committee. I understand thinking, should they make recommendations, shouldn't they? I agree with you that decisions are up to us. But I think enabling robust public conversation is one of the most important things that we need to do connected with this country club. And we're not talking about a long drawn-out process of 4 months or 6 months. This group has agreed to 2 public hearings quickly in the month of October. They're to report back to us no later than November 7th, possibly earlier. So I don't see these as mutually exclusive, but I do feel strongly that this is the way to
A
begin.
follow-up question. Is that the right thing to say?
Yes, so
I
the
call
mo-
for
Call the motion.
the motion is on approval of the ad hoc committee language that I read to the board. It's been made and seconded, correct? Okay.
Who made
Oh,
it? Who made it?
was the motion?
Made it, Susan.
Seconded.
Okay.
Okay,
Wow.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Tony, you
Stay.
abstain? Okay. We are now at the Director of Finance reports.
Okay, thank
Tony.
you. Normally, in the September meeting, I would give you more clarification on our year-end figures, but because we just had a meeting 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I thought what I would do this year, which is something I don't usually do, is do the current year budget, which would be the 14 budget. Now, we're only 2 months into the budget, so there aren't any major variances many major variances to report at this time, but I have a few that I'd like to highlight for you. The first is that we've received an extra $14,000 in our state revenue sharing grant. So that's additional revenue that we had not budgeted for. Secondly, under employee benefits, we have two accounts that have some activity. The first is our workers' compensation, which will experience a shortfall of about $50,000, mainly due to two factors. First is that our bids came in about $24,000 higher than anticipated. It's a very limited market for workers' compensation coverage for towns. Not many firms like to write that type of coverage. So we had, our bids came in higher. Second, our assessment to payment to MIRMA, which is a municipal interlocal risk management agency, which we were part of years ago, which is a former risk pool. Former members may remember some discussions on this. Is our last payment, but was $26,000 over our budgeted amount. So that's our shortfall in workers' compensation. However, we will experience a surplus in healthcare this year of about $80,000. That's mainly due to two main issues. First of all, our rates came in lower than we had budgeted. As in the budget process, we have to sort of make some assumptions earlier than when we have our final rates. And secondly, we had some changes in coverage to the benefit, to the positive, which allowed us to save some money. So we have a surplus there of about $80,000. So those are our highlights so far this year. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Okay.
Happy to hear that's the last payment to the Mermaid.
Yeah, you're finally.
Ed fought that, didn't he?
Yep.
Long time.
Yeah.
There are no tax refunds?
No tax
is that correct?
refunds, no.
So no funding requests?
Okay. Do you have the page 10? I have one for you too. Okay. So the first fund, yeah, let me see, sure. I missed it. The funding request is 131405 in the amount of $2,340. I'll just explain it and then I guess you can vote on it. And this is, we have in TPZ, there's a process where if a consultant is needed by an application, that the consultant pays that fee. And this is basically a transfer of that revenue to the expenditure. We've done this in the past to cover the expense of the engineering that's related to the application. So it's more of a sort of an accounting transfer, but you have to appropriate the funds to be used for the engineering at TPZ. So that's what this is for.
I'll make that motion that we approve that.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we're on the bids.
Bids, yeah. There you go. Okay.
Do you want to explain? You want to explain it, and then we'll do the motion?
Sure, yep.
Okay.
The first bid is for, I think you have them this way in your package, the tennis. Is that the first one you have in front of you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The in the budget process, there was some funds that were appropriated for the painting of the tennis courts. And so I believe it was $25,000. This is another
I
goodie.
don't remember, but I can remember doing
This
it.
is
Right.
a goodie.
So, again,
job.
it always helps to go out to bid, as you can see.
So
We received two bids. Yeah, you know,
Wow.
it yet again illustrates why when we go out to bid,
Yeah.
you have some favorable results. And so anyway, there were two bids, and we recommend the use of Dalton Track and Tennis, who we've used before. I believe it was up at the Beecher Courts, to great success for $11,999.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
And you checked references?
And we've
Okay,
used them
okay.
before.
Question, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any reason given why the numbers were so 40,000 compared to 12?
idea why. It's a
I
very good
mean,
question.
is there different, I mean, I'm just hoping there's no second layer that's needed or some coating that we're not using. It just seems so,
This vendor here is well-known and very familiar with the vendor that was the low bid. The other vendor no one has ever heard of.
okay, I mean, I was just
So
wondering
I'm
if
not
there's
sure
some
where he
kind
came
of
up with that figure.
sealant that means you don't paint it for 5 years. It just seems so absolutely
Well,
crazy.
they have to bid according to the specs.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah, and it
It's
just,
apples and apples.
Maybe it's
Should
because
be.
Dalton does it all the time.
Could be.
They know what
Yeah.
they're doing and
Or
they
somebody
need
just
to
took a
worry
shot at
about
it.
Right, they
threw it out the
figured.
wall.
an extra
Sure, right.
$30,000.
That happens frequently, you know?
Okay.
Any other
Great.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next bid?
The next bid is for road salt, and we received 3 bids, highly competitive atmosphere. Sometimes we receive up to 6 bids, and we've actually used all 3 of these bidders at one time or another. And our low bid this year is International Salt for $59.66 a ton.
Is there a motion to award the bid to
Make
International
that
Salt?
motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Now we return to the subject of animal control.
And normally, again, I would have a monthly update for you, but we had our August update at the last meeting. So really the only significant things are going well. We are putting together a plan to both on the short term to fix issues with the building that are within budget and our maintenance related items. We have a list working with the ACO to do that. We're also working with the ACO to put together a comprehensive capital plan for the facility so that you can have a 6-year plan in your budget of what they feel are and facilities feels are needs of the facility, and then you can make your determinations during the budget process. We did have one event. It was, I believe, not this weekend, but the weekend before. It was in Bethany. You might have heard about it. I'm not sure. A Bethany resident came in contact with a rabid raccoon, and our ACO was called out along with the Bethany State Trooper, and performed very well. The Paul did a nice job of reporting to the proper authorities and doing what he was necessary of him to really do a nice job in controlling that situation. So I just wanted to mention that. That it went really well. Yeah.
So-
I have a quick question, I'm sorry.
I just want to add 2 things to what Tony said. One is that since we have switched over to the Board of Selectmen, Tony and his staff have been supervising the staff at the Animal Control Center, and from everything I've heard, it's going extremely well, and there are very open lines of communication. We haven't heard of any problems, and anyone who is interested in contacting any of us has certainly done so. But I think having the chain of communication of command and reporting has worked very, very well. So I want to thank Tony, and also to commend Paul for his handling of the situation in Bethany. Apparently he did a top-notch job, and everybody was very pleased with that. Also, I will take the opportunity to remind anyone who's listening and anyone who's here to be sure your pets are vaccinated and that all of the vaccinations are up to date.
Very important.
That
yeah.
was very, very
And
important.
licensed
Sorry.
with the town clerk.
And licensed with the town clerk.
Right.
Dogs.
Yes.
Dogs.
Right.
Not kitties.
Yes.
Dogs.
Sorry, Susan. Did you
We
want
had a
to?
few questions for you.
Sure.
Wait, Susan was going
Yeah.
to speak next.
Yeah, Tony, just remind me, did the town build the shelter?
The town acquired the shelter.
So it was already there on that property?
Right. I
It's
believe it was a
on
state
town
shelter.
property?
Yeah.
But do you mean acquired the shelter?
Right. Jerry's got some history here. It was the state. Wasn't the
It
state?
was a state, when that shelter was built,
Yeah.
the state was divided up into districts, and it was all under state control. And the ACOs were
Oh, I see.
state employees.
Okay, so the building existed
Mhm.
when we got, I see, okay,
Right.
thank you, that
Right.
helps.
And then when the state dropped it into the town's laps.
Right.
That's when the district animal control was formed, and the building reverted to the town because it was on town property.
I got you, thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I never
Now that we're
understood that.
in control, I'm assuming you have some kind of schedule to handle assessments of both the program, the workers. Can you tell us when that is? That a once a year thing, and who helps you with that?
I have Kathy. She works with me. She has direct oversight over the operation, and we assess them on pretty much a regular basis, and we review their progress and their reporting, and it's an ongoing process. There's not really a sort of a set, once a year there's a report written. I mean, it's sort of an ongoing process where we are constantly reviewing and trying to improve the employees.
Okay, my second question was, last month, Cheryl in public comment, made a comment that I took a note, and I wanted to ask you. She made mention that as of the end of the second month of the fiscal year, we had already used up over 40% of our overtime allotment.
Right.
Is that still happening, or if for some reason we're not allowing enough hours, or
As part of our monthly report, will also be financials. So next month when I get into this, I can certainly review that with you. But we've had some staffing issues there that has required us to use some
so
overtime
it's something
early
you
in the
think is
year.
out of the norm, and that's
Oh,
why we're using
absolutely.
a lot of hours.
Absolutely
It's
out
not
of the
that we're
norm.
just not positioning ourselves for enough hours.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, is absolutely out of the norm.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about Deborah?
Sure,
Do you have the-
I can.
Yeah.
We have a part-time ACO filling in as we have one of our ACOs on leave. So we have to have the part-time ACO appointed as animal control officer. Her name is Deborah Ice, and she actually has been working for a little bit, been filling in, and she's from Seymour, right?
Seymour.
And is, from all accounts, is doing a fine job. Unfortunately, we were trying to get some sort of a resume for this meeting, and we did not get one in time. So it's up to you. We can certainly, we would have to either put that off to the next meeting or.
Seems self-evident that she's cool.
See, it's not just me, he's cute too.
I'm stuck with them. Two jokesters.
I would entertain a motion to appoint Deborah Ice. We know her background. Tony's been working with her, and Paul has. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Second? Any discussion about appointing
Maybe just
Deborah Ice?
it's subject to receipt of a written resume in the file, so there's something.
And
friendly
she does
amendment
do
to
the
the-
back, do you have
yes.
to do the background check
Yep.
on a Chaz?
Right.
Okay, all the standard
Right, proper
employee
license.
Well,
things.
that's
Yep.
evidently been done, right?
Right.
It's
Oh,
just,
okay.
it's just
I'm
the
sorry.
piece of paper we don't have in our
Right.
files.
I didn't
Right.
hear that, okay.
Correct. We
Thank
had
you.
the license check and all that.
Yeah, all right, good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Any other discussion on Woodbridge Animal Control?
It went there, Cheryl this month asked us, was there gonna be a direction from you as far as
A
liaison?
liaison.
So,
There is no,
I'm just
it would
bringing
be,
it up.
right. There is no commission to which we could be a liaison. I believe things are working very well right now. I don't see the need to
So
appoint
Tony's
anyone else.
it anyway, basically.
Tony's our
Tony's,
liaison.
yes,
So
and he's there
if
for
they have
us.
an issue, they call
So
Tony.
you just let me know.
Tony
and I take
reports
care of it,
to us.
right?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Number 10 is the town clerk's report. I will make a motion to acknowledge receipt of the report for July and August. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Minutes. These are, again, minutes of the former board, so Joe and Tony and I will not be participating in the motions, seconds, or votes. I'll raise them for you, and then, first is a motion to accept the minutes of December 14th, 2011.
The regular meeting, right?
Regular meeting,
Yeah.
regular meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there a second December 14th meeting?
Now, there's a golf commission ordinance.
Oh, I see, yes.
Whoops.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes regarding the Golf Commission ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Lawrence, I'm not sure if you were there.
Says I was.
Oh, you were. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. You were.
I'm old.
Sorry.
So I don't really
Sorry.
know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of March 6, 2012.
6th, okay. I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
I have one thing, I make
Mhm.
one little thing. Page 5, award of bids. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously Heller/Gregg. I would just change it to Coin for fun. Halfway down the page.
You always
Oh,
catch
okay.
those.
I always catch
I
those.
just like your first names.
I know.
It's so
I used
much
to
more
be Beth.
comfortable.
Yep. And another thing, I called Jerry today, and there were no reports for those March, April, and May for the fire commission. And I'm pretty sure I didn't miss 3 meetings, so I'm pretty sure I reported. So she just said she was gonna go through and listen and just add them to the minutes. I'm sure it's fine. So I'd like to just move that we, go ahead with the meeting. I'll trust her to,
As corrected.
and she'll add the little whatever I said, because I just don't want it to look like I didn't report on the fire commission for 3 months. She was listening to the tapes, and I'm sure it was difficult listening to Ed. So, get it. Thank you.
So is there a second to that motion as amended? The motion is that these
Second.
minutes will be, right. All those in favor?
Hi.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting of March 28th, 2012?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion?
I have a couple of things, sorry. I read them. Page 2.
You know, you can only do so much on
Eight.
keeping your own word.
Okay, under action by the Board of Finance, under the vote for the operating budget, FY 2013, I think it should say FY 2013, not 2012.
It certainly should.
Okay,
Good catch, good catch.
and then, under the capital budget right below that, it says tree work. Just for point of clarification, I would add to that for CCW, so that it looks like it's a $20,000 just for it was only for the Country Club of Woodbridge.
Correct.
Not for the whole town, just a point of clarification,
And
but,
I paid out of contingency.
so that if people didn't think we did the whole town for $20,000, because that would be incredible.
It would be.
Okay, so those are my 2 changes. And should I we made the motion? I made the motion.
The motion with
All right.
the amendment.
So,
All those, any other discussion? All those in favor?
hi.
A motion to accept the minutes of the meeting of April 11th, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
And just an amendment
Any
on the fire
discussion, Beth?
commission stuff, but other than that, I found nothing.
All those in favor?
Thanks. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
One thing.
Yes.
Why not? Under award of bids on page 2, 4 paragraphs down, maybe I missed something. It just says bid 2012-12, 60-inch wide vibrating solid. Is it a tine or a line overseer?
Time.
It is a tine. Okay, then no changes. Thanks, just wanted to ask. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, Lawrence, did you have something else? I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
I was waiting for a chance to abstain.
I knew there was one.
That's all.
Oh,
Okay,
can we
all those
vote?
in favor?
I guess
2 and 1.
yes.
It's the only way we can do it, right?
Opposed? Abstentions?
I
Lawrence?
think it's 2-1-4.
Let's do one.
Oh.
2 in favor.
Two in favor.
The
Zero.
entire- The entire board
No
votes on
opposition.
it.
No.
No,
They weren't there.
can't vote
We're
because
not
they weren't
voting.
part of the,
So
we're
it has
not
to
part
be
of the board.
2-0-1, right?
Well,
Yeah.
then I'm
201.
wrong again.
or you can just receive them.
Right. Wrong again. Okay.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, you have to receive them. So these will be received. And all of them are correct.
No, that's approved. That's approved. 2-0-1.
Yeah. So what do you want to do?
I have to
Two
abstain. I
yes.
wasn't there.
Right, 2 yes, no.
I don't see why it's different from the other ones. It's not a quorum in any event.
Right.
So if the other ones can
201.
be approved, this one can. If the other
Right.
ones can't, then they'll all be received.
So it's going to be
You can
2
check that.
approved, no nays, and 1 abstention.
Abstention, correct.
Okay. You got to abstain. Skip it.
Okay, that takes care of the minutes.
Can I just say, Jerry, that must have been very difficult. And
I know, I talked to her about it today, and I felt
My-
terrible.
Really? Wow. Well, my heart goes out to you. That's not
I do
easy
want
to
to
do.
say for the record, though, that all actions of the board is always filed within the required.
Right.
No, no,
Yeah.
of course.
Just all the
Yeah,
dialogue.
absolutely, I know. And we go, when we do blah, 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 I know. Sorry for the blah, blah, blah.
Thank you, Jerry. The 12th item is a proclamation that was brought to my attention. There's an effort to declare September 19th as No Texting While Driving Awareness Day. It is being sponsored by AT&T. They came to talk with us about it, and I just wanted to let you all know that I think it's a good idea for the town to participate in this. They have offered to do school programs, although they are stressing that it's not for children only. It's for adults as well, so we may want to acknowledge it in some way. But in any event, I don't think we need a vote on this or any action, but I just wanted to
I would hope
present it
it's
to you.
not just for children, since it's No Texting While Driving Awareness Day.
Well, I mean, teens. They were talking about teens, really, but I think it's very.
It also recommends that we have a charge, we have a job to do as part of this, that we are supposed to take the personal pledge not to text and drive, support efforts to raise public awareness about the dangers of texting, and encourage others to take the pledge not to text and drive. So we have a job to do. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question about participation by other towns. Do you have any sense of that?
She did tell me, but I don't have that. I'll let you know.
Do you
Okay.
post this on the,
Put it on the website.
Sure.
That's a very good idea.
Good idea.
That's a very good idea, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
First Selectmen's report. I just wanted to go back to the Country Club of Woodbridge and tell you all that the members of the committee are Dr. Gary Desir, Andy Esposito, Dr. Debbie Freed, Tom Kennefic, and Carolyn Wolf. They have all very graciously agreed to hold the hearings and be very active participants in this. And they have scheduled the meetings for October 2nd, that's a Wednesday, and October 15th, a Tuesday. And the members were very flexible about arranging their schedules so that they could move expeditiously and schedule these two hearings. I'd like to publicly thank them very much for their efforts.
Do you happen to know, Ellen, do we have a time and place?
7
or-
o'clock
Yeah.
at the Center Gym.
Okay,
what,
thanks.
did you say that again,
7 o'clock, Center Gym, October 2nd and October 15th.
That's good, thanks.
Yeah.
And it's going to be noticed to all residents.
Yeah, we'll put on the record, Jerry saying that all residents will get notice of this. We'll make a very concerted effort to get the word out so people can get there. Also, in my report tonight, I would like to mention the Massaro Farm Dinner on September 1st. Susan, Beth, and Tony were there, and I'm sure they will agree that, like everything at Massaro Farm, it was beautiful and
You were there,
bountiful.
too.
Yes, I was indeed. It was really showing off another of our town jewels. I think it's wonderful that we have this town partnership with the Massaro Farm using town property. So it was a wonderful event. Also, to mention, I'd like to take every opportunity for people to know that on September 21st, from 9 to noon at the transfer station, there is a townwide shredding opportunity. And it's for residential only homes, not for businesses, but all town residents are welcome to bring their shredding on September 21st. I've already talked about the suggestion that we visit the animal shelter. That was on my list, and we'll be doing that. And one other thing I want to mention is that Beth has brought up that there may be a problem with the sound system in this room.
What?
Sometimes people have trouble.
You
Not
nervous
us.
out there?
And we are looking into that and checking if there's a problem with the system or if it really needs some
Actually,
work.
can I ask a question? I don't think it was shown live last month. Is that correct? And actually, 2 months in a row they had an issue. It didn't.
I don't know the answer to that
Dan,
because I have
It
you
didn't-
first and I
It wasn't
looked
out
at
there
it.
last month during, I think they actually showed the month previous meeting
Oh.
during that time, and people were confused as why we were talking about the
Same things again.
But
Groundhog
I don't know
Day. All
what
the,
they had, but
I don't know. I don't know. We can check into that.
just so you know, we
Um,
didn't talk about the same.
Okay, liaison reports. Joe, do you want to begin?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple. Library Commission.
I'm sorry, which
Library.
library?
Library Commission. Yes, good news, they were 15,000 under budget through gas and oil savings. I guess they switched from gas to oil to gas, and that was helpful. They talked about the ALA, won't call it a mandate, but I guess they weren't quite clear what it was, a suggestion or a mandate in terms of the library's involvement in the Affordable Care Act in some fashion. They weren't clear on what it was. I'll have more information as it develops. Perhaps like the IRS forms, just having forms and things, but it wasn't clear. So, but there's some implication with the Affordable Care Act. They have a humidity issue there in the building that you all might be aware of, and there was some discussion on that. It's the first time I had heard of it, obviously, but I know there's some work being done on that. And that's pretty much it. They elected their officers, Jeanette Glicksman Chair, Thomas Schurnow Vice Chair, William Kelly Secretary Treasurer. That's pretty much the highlights there. And then Human Services. About all I can say on one issue is they have an employment issue that I think that some town authorities are aware of as well. So I'll throw that out there. And one other note, there was some discussion of youth services scheduling an event over behind the firehouse for fires in the fire pit for some youth folks to go and participate in, which I thought was kind of strange. But nonetheless, that was offered up as an activity coming out of youth services. Long and the short of it, after discussion, there was a motion that carried not to have that event at the firehouse.
Thank you.
Pretty much it.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks for being concise. Tony?
Actually, since we met 2 weeks ago, none of my 3 commissions or boards met.
Well, thank
So
you for
you'll have
being
a full
concise.
report next month when they meet this week.
Thank you. Yeah. Sure, I'll try to be concise too.
I did attend the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last Tuesday, and they held a public hearing regarding amendments to zoning regulations proposed by the Town Plan and Zoning Commission related to 2 items, and both of them were continued, but it's access to properties in Woodbridge from abutting towns, and also an amendment regarding firearms sales. So several residents came and gave their opinion, and both hearings have been continued till next month, October, whatever, I don't know the date, sorry. Oh, October 7th. They did receive an application from 180 Amity Road, which is Wheeler's, for expansion of the outdoor eating area, and that was approved. And regarding which we just voted on the 110-114 Luciani Street proposal, that was also approved. So that's it for TP&Z. And Board of Fire Commissioners meeting met this past Monday, and the new tanker should be delivered in the next few weeks. Little problem with the apparatus bay floor. Apparently it's begun to develop bubbles again. So there we go. I don't know what's going to come of that, but
And
that
just-
did come up.
Excuse me, and that is the agreement that we considered in executive
Correct.
session. So
Yeah.
I think they're consulting with their attorneys again
Okay,
about that.
good to know. That part was brought up in open session, so I'm just reporting on it. I want to keep the board informed. Let's see, EMT refresher course was held recently and everyone passed. Training continues. They did an extrication drill and a car fire drill, and the fire marshal conducted 53 inspections in the past month, and it was reported that truck or treat they're still planning for October 31st, and the volunteers are welcome. That was as of last Monday. That's all I can report, and the next meeting is for October 21st.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ditto with Tony, nobody met.
Thank you. Florence?
I think the word for that is conciser.
You beat me. You beat us.
The Amity Board of Ed met Monday night, and there was a quite comprehensive presentation made of the CAPT standardized test results for Amity, and without this was quite comprehensive. They were going into great detail, but suffice it to say, Amity performed very well in its DIRG, the District Resource Group, which associates Amity with comparable districts statewide. Amity was number 2 in mathematics. Only Avon scored better. Amity was 3rd in what's called reading across the disciplines, trailing only Madison and Simsbury. Writing across the disciplines, Amity ranked 5th, and in science testing, Amity ranked 7th, again within the district resource group. And there's no limit to the amount of statistics to be gleaned if anyone is so inclined. Associated with that was some discussion of how the next generation of standardized testing will move to a digital interactive format. The Woodbridge Board of Education has been talking about that for some time already. I'm new to the Amity Board, so I'm new to their discussions. I'm not new to the board. But anyway, it's true for all the testing that it will move to a digital interactive technology driven format. The board discussed budget development and proposed schedule for that. Back on the technology matter, the board discussed and then appropriated some funds for new technology to provide for teacher assessment. That is a big part of the education I'm missing the word. The changes in education law passed by the General Assembly last year. Anyway, the district feels it needs new computers to help with teacher assessments, since it will be there will be a huge volume of data to be warehoused and processed. And then one last thing, the board approved the hiring of Cooperative Educational Services as a search consultant to the board for a new superintendent. That the work toward that will begin immediately as soon as the board chair negotiates the contract.
That's interesting.
And then one last thing, which wasn't part of the meeting, and I thought it was sort of conspicuous by its absence. There was no mention of this referendum that's scheduled for the 24th. The board is prohibited from taking a position on the referendum, but there was no mention made. And I guess maybe I should leave it at that too.
Right, thank you.
What, can you just tell us the date of that? It was actually my question to you, if there even had come up, the field
The
referendum.
referendum is Tuesday, September 24th.
It is
The polls are
24th,
open from
yeah.
6 in the morning until 8 at night.
It's the quietest referendum I can, one that's been planned for so long.
Is correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.